We welcome you to Live with the Red Wolves here on 95.3 The Ticket. We come to you from J-Town's Grill, just across Johnson Avenue from Centennial Bank Stadium on the Arkansas State campus. For the next 60 minutes, we're going to talk some A-State athletics, more specifically some A-State baseball. Invite you to join us at J-Town's. Folks coming in, still room for you. Specials on both sides of the restaurant, great food and a lot of good atmosphere here at J-Town's. Invite you to come on by and say hello to A-State head baseball coach Tommy Raffo, a couple of Red Wolves players with us as well as we jump into the second edition of Live with the Red Wolves. We welcome in the head baseball coach at Arkansas State. Tommy Raffo is with us. Coach, good to see you.
Thanks, Brad. Thanks for having us, man.
5-game week last week that we had we talked about it and laid out a little bit last Monday on our first edition of the program, and I guess in the truest sense of the word, from a result standpoint, it was up and down through the first 4 of those games last week, alternated wins and losses.
Hey, we were excited about being on the field for 5 games.
Yes.
That's the biggest thing for us, and we need to have that happen, and it was fun. We started off with a good road trip to Murray State and saw some really positive things with our club, and came back and played SEMO here at home, and then we were able to go back on the road to Lafayette, back-to-back road weekends in the Sun Belt. So kind of up and down a little bit as far as the results like you talked about, but we saw improvement with the team, and we saw some neat things happen offensively that I think that we can talk about during the show. And you know, we saw some individuals step up, obviously performance-wise, and so it was really good to see some things that they'll carry us on into this week.
Started that week, as you mentioned, last Tuesday with that trip to Murray State, and in some ways probably just what the doctor ordered for your team, the opportunity to go put up 14 runs on the board and get out of there with a 14-6 win.
Well, I think the biggest thing when you look back at that game was the type of at-bats that we were having back-to-back-to-back. We were stringing them pretty good, and typically, like, one of them that really sticks out in my mind is like a Zach George, goes 3-2 count, being so unselfish in his at-bat. He fouls balls off, and he walks, and he gives Matt Burgess a chance to hit, and Matt hits a home run. And so those are the type of things that we started to see. We also started to see us answer back twice during that game, where they actually took a lead or scored on us, and immediately right after that offensively we scored to counter that, and that's a good sign for our club. And then we had some outings, for us with Colin Nord started it off in the ball game, and then we had to kind of go through the pin a little bit because we're trying to get our innings straightened up for the week.
I know that's it's a big. You're big on that, and a lot of coaches are. Depending on which side of the coin you're on, if you get a big inning offensively, I know you feel like going right back out defensively and putting a 0 up is key. The flip side of that, as you said, if the other team has a big inning, you feel like it's just as big a key to come back and score some yourself.
Well, we talked about that all fall. It's been like that in our program for a long period of time. The ability for a pitcher and a defense immediately after you score your team, you want to put a 0 up on the board, and it really negates a lot of momentum or shifts it back into their dugout. Conversely, what you want to be able to do offensively is you want to be able to answer right back at them. It doesn't matter what type of score, 1, 2, 3, whatever, but you be able to show them and say, hey, wait a minute, this is going to go back and forth. And we were able to do that a lot if you look back at the box scores throughout the week that we have not been doing offensively. And so that was pleasing to see. And I think the results is we saw a lot of better quality at-bats through the course of the 5 games that we had with the personnel that we had in there.
Yeah, without getting sort of game specific, which we will. To your point, you played a lot of games that saw a lot of momentum swings because teams answering scoring runs in back-to-back innings a lot last week.
Well, it's college baseball, and that was a neat part. We're on the road 4 of the 5, and sometimes those atmospheres are interesting to play with because the momentum, whether or not you grab a 3 or 4 run lead away from home, one little minute detail maybe swings that home team back into a fury, so to speak. And, I think we were able to counter that for the most part. I know it was really back and forth on Saturday when we talked about the Lafayette game. That was back and forth for a long period of time in that Saturday game.
So the 14-6 win at Murray came home last Wednesday. Welcome Southeast Missouri State to Tomlinson Stadium. And I know maybe the disheartening part of that ball game is the fact that you had been pretty clean defensively, error-free the entire weekend before Georgia Southern, and the way that game played out, a couple of miscues late, really kind of led to your undoing in a 6-5 loss.
Well, obviously it shows up and it's magnified. At the same time, we get the big inning because, they had a costly error too. Errors are going to happen in a ball game. I mean, obviously during the course of the season, physically, some things happen. It's the mental things you got to cut down on. And, for us to continue, we got to fight through that and pick each other up. Now, we came out on the raw end of the deal, with the loss in that game. But, again, we're starting to see some things that happened. And, as you look back and say, okay, what could we have done? Well, we answered back twice in that game. And we could have easily just said, okay, that's going to be it for the ball game. And then, we got Adam Grantham, who's here with us tonight. He started that game. And so now he's been able to work very hard to get us some outs in both starts that he's had to get our offense back on the board. And he's done a very good job with that, working hard to do it.
Night in and night out. And I know you've got the numbers that sort of bear out your odds of winning based on your run production. But I know that the way you guys have pitched it, specifically on the weekends, you'd take your chances 5 runs most days. I know you think you'll win your fair share of games if you can put 5 or 6 runs up.
Well, I think the 4 of the 5 we went 14, 6, 10, and 5 maybe, and then we end up not. We had some opportunities or windows open up on Sunday, bases loaded, and the guy obviously catches a line drive double play, and we had another opportunity with runners at first and second. But the game is so minute, and it's so. It's amazing how one pitch or one play can change the complexion of the game and swing it in your favor. And now your job is to try to keep it in your favor.
Talking with A-State head baseball coach Tommy Raffo, live with the Red Wolves from J-Town's Grill, right across from Centennial Bank Stadium in Jonesboro. Last week we talked about, there's really probably not tougher back-to-back conference road trips to make than going to Georgia Southern and to Lafayette, both for the quality opponent, both for and then the atmosphere, the facilities, top notch for those two. But you guys went in and won the Friday night game. The final there was 10-4, and I would be interested to your thoughts. When you look at all things considered, you look at getting quality pitching. When you look at the fact, I think 7 of those runs scored with 2 outs, stringing some hits together, felt like one of, if not maybe the best wins on the season at that point.
Well, we hadn't seen a lot of that lately, and that's what we, in the beginning of the show, stringing the quality at bats. We're having the 2-out hits and the 2-out RBI situations that came up for us. Joe Schrimpf made a huge play in the ball game. We had runners at first and third. The game was kind of in limbo, and we went to the mound. I think Coach Ty and I had talked. He said, listen, we don't care about the runner at third base. Let's just make sure we control the inning. We end up turning the double play at that and swung momentum in our favor. And then we end up going on a roll offensively, and things started to happen for us, stringing the quality at-bats together. And a lot of that happened with 2 outs and nobody on. And that was kind of interesting. We hadn't seen that in a while. So there's some neat things that are happening. Guys are, buying into what they believe in that can happen for us. And the window of opportunities, you never know when they're going to happen.
And I don't know if you're much on comparing wins or not, but when you look at all things considered, the atmosphere, the environment, the opponent, a super regional team from a year ago, and the fact that all the factors you guys did. I know you knocked around the All-American from Louisville, and that's going to rank up there, but I guess where did this sort of stack up in maybe the list of the biggest wins to this point in the season?
Well, I think this was a first for us, at least that I can remember. This is the first time we've gone to Lafayette on a Friday night and pulled out a win. It's a first. Now, we had the opportunity to get the series the next 2 games. I think in the past we pulled out a couple series after losing the first game. So, obviously it's a great atmosphere. Our guys competed very well. Could we wanted more? No doubt about it. During the course of the Sun Belt season, you got 30 games. You got 5 home series and 5 on the road. And typically, if you end up playing at 500 ball, you win 2 out of 3 at home and you lose 2 out of 3 on the road. So, you don't want to be 500, but at the same time you want to be above that. So you got to be able to catch up. So if you win a series on the road, that's a plus. If you end up sweeping at home, that's a plus. during the course of the long haul of 30 games. The only disadvantage that I think we faced as a program is we didn't get the full benefit of 6 dates at home early for us. Can you imagine taking 5 dates out of Lafayette's field? Those people go nuts. They would not like it. You know, that's 5 dates that were taken out of our field during the front part of our season. So there's some adversity we're going to fight through. I think our guys are up to the challenge. We look forward to coming home for this Sun Belt weekend. So we're looking forward to that.
Yeah, when you're looking, it is what it is, and we talked a lot about the weather last week, but that's a pretty stiff price to pay when you flat out don't get 4 of your 15 conference home games. It's a pretty good price tag for some bad weather.
Well, we've been dealt a hand, so now what do we do with it? And it's a great learning lesson for a lot of reasons. You know, for a baseball club, you know, we're fighting through this. At the same time, this is going to happen in life too. You know, whether you have a family or a job or whatever you have to come across of, you know, how do you handle it? You know, what is this? Adversity is going to define you, and it's going to define this team this year.
Talking with Tommy Raffo here live with the Red Wolves from J. Towns Grill in Jonesboro. The back-and-forth game, the most back-and-forth game of the week last week was that Saturday game, 9-6 the final, but about as many lead changes as you can have in a 9-6 ball game in a day in which you had to sort of stray from the plan. You had Glidewell out there, the blister flares back up, and the bullpen had to eat some innings for you Saturday.
Well, obviously, if you would have said, hey, listen, Glidewell's only going to give you 2 2/3, and you're going to have an opportunity at the end of the ball game, and you're going to have number 3 and 4 hitter up with the bases loaded with 1 out, and to tie a game in the 8th, I'd take it. You know, that's how the game turned out, and so that tells you what our guys were able to do. You know, John, bless his heart, I mean, he's got this little thing that, really bothers him to spin the ball, and he's got a really good breaking ball. And so it negates some of his strength. Then we go to Cody Jackson out of the pen, and he did everything he could to hold the fort down, which, he's going to be coming on after Tommy John surgery. We're really pleased with his progress. Coach Dickinson's done a great job with him. And so now we move the game. And the great thing about what we're seeing with our lineup is the bottom of the lineup kept flipping to the top all the way through this week. You saw the 7, 8, 9 guys get to the 1, 2, 3, get to the 1, 2, 3. And our 1, 2, 3, when you look at Baker, George, and Burgess, was pretty darn good. And so I'll take that anytime. I'll roll the dice with our guys, the way to flip it. And the way the game turned out in the top of the 8th, our window of opportunity opened up with Burgess and Stewart with the opportunity to maybe chink a ball or drive a ball in the gap or whatever it had to be. It just didn't happen at that moment.
Then, again, with a chance to win a series, I know you talk about a situation you would take. Trotting David Owen out on a Sunday with a chance to win a series in Lafayette is something you would sign up for, and he's been on the wrong end of some tough luck from the standpoint that he has not gotten a lot of run support.
Hey, our guys are competing. David is a great competitor, and he works hard. I mean, he's put a lot of time and effort into this year, and he gave us everything he could. And, obviously for them, they get a 2-strike, 2-out double that scores 2. That kind of expanded the lead a little bit. Again, we had the window of opportunity with Zach George up with the bases loaded. If the ball's 3 feet right or left, the game's a totally different complexion. We had Matty Burgess up first and second. If the ball's 3 feet right or left, totally different game. So we're getting those, and sooner or later they're going to fall. They're going to win out over the long haul. Our guys are going to keep competing, and the quality of that bat is what I'm pleased with is what our guys have been able to do in the last 6 days in the lineup compared to what was happening maybe 2-3 weeks ago.
And I know the first of those 3 runs for the Cajuns is one you're kind of willing to look past because a guy who I don't think had played in something like a month and a half came in and swung at the first pitch he saw and hit a solo home run.
Crazy. Crazy things happen, and we told our guys, said, listen, pull for each other, pull for your team, pick each other up because you don't know when it's going to happen in this game.
We've talked different times and talked last week about the offensive philosophy of the team, and I know one part of that has been over these last 2 years a little bit probably more aggressive approach on the bases, and I know sometimes it's led to making some outs there. Sort of what's the line for you between sort of sticking to the plan and then maybe saying, well, we've lost a lot of base runners along the way?
We've had some opportunities. Our guys are really aggressive, and they want to be aggressive, and they're trying to make things happen to help the club, and you can't fault that at all. And that's something that sometimes when a young man says, hey, I want to be Superman and I want to do this to help the team, sometimes it does backfire. And we just got to learn from it. We got to get better from it. We got to be smarter from it. And I think it'll put ourselves in a better position.
More with Tommy Raffo coming up a little bit later in the show, but we'll take a break. We'll come back and visit with a couple of members of the A-State baseball team. Adam Grantham and Colin Massinelli join us live with the Red Wolves. Following these words, we're at J-Town's Grill live on the Ticket. Time to talk with a couple members of the A-State baseball program, a couple of the players. Adam Grantham, the junior out of Kennett, joins us from the A-State pitching staff, and then outfielder Colin Massinelli out of Pine Bluff, the Watson Chapel product, with us as well. Fellas, thanks for coming out.
Thanks for allowing us to be here.
Thanks for having us.
Adam, let's start with you because you drew the start last week against SEMO. And I know by nature you get to this point, you want the ball when you can get the ball, but you are also a Southeast Missouri guy. Is there a little extra in drawing the start against those guys?
Yes, sir, there definitely is. I know a lot of those players on the team, and I've played with them through high school, and there's actually a guy from my high school that goes to SEMO. So there's always a little extra motivation when you play SEMO.
How'd you feel like we'll just let you break down your pitching performance against them last week at home?
I felt like I did pretty good. There's always a few pitches when you're out there that you feel like you want back and you feel like you could have made a better pitch and allow your team a better chance to win. You always wish you can go more than 5, and the quality start is about 6 or 7, so you're trying to get to that 6 or 7 to save the bullpen, and I just wish I could have pushed it a little longer and gave us a better chance to win.
Colin, talk about last week in general. You guys got a chance to play 5 games, and that's news in itself to get out there and get on the field 5 times. I'm sure was a welcome sight for you guys.
Yeah, we came out and played hard. I think overall we got better as a team. We didn't get the results we really wanted overall, but I think in the long run we got better from last weekend playing Georgia Southern, and we made adjustments, and I feel like as a whole we just got better, and we were lucky to play all those games.
I know, and Coach Raffo's first say it, and we talked about it a lot last week. Nobody wants to say anything that makes it look like you're sort of using the weather early in the season as any kind of excuse. But the fact is, when you go a month without stepping on the field at that early in the season, it's going to put you a little bit behind where you would have been otherwise, right?
Yeah, we did. We had to battle through a little bit of adversity, but we're used to it. It's something that we have to deal with every year, pretty much, with our field. A lot of rain, snow, ice, and
as a result, though, as you guys start to approach maybe this weekend, next weekend, hitting that midway point of the conference season, isn't it pretty safe to say that this team's best baseball is probably ahead of it?
Oh yeah, we still got a lot of work to do in the conference. We need to win more games, and we're playing better already. We just got to get those timely hits that we need, and hopefully that'll allow us to win a few more games.
Talking with Colin Massinelli, also Adam Grantham here live with the Red Wolves. Adam, when you look at these last 2 weekends, those are probably the 2 toughest places to go maybe in the league to play, at Georgia Southern, at Lafayette. And even though you don't win those series, you don't get swept, and really all 6 of the games at some point in time were pretty winnable. A couple of extra inning losses in there as well. Even though you wanted those series wins, how much confidence is there to take there that, I mean, this thing, it feels close right now?
I definitely think we're close. I think in every game at Georgia Southern, we were just one pitch away, one hit away from breaking it open and winning the game. And same way at Lafayette. I just think just as we keep on progressing, as we keep on getting better, we're eventually just going to click and we're just going to take off for the rest of the season.
How is it, Colin? How hard is it to not press at that point when it does feel close and you've gone through a stretch of 6-8 games that always feel, if you don't win, it feels one hit away. How hard is it to kind of not try to do too much?
Yeah, it is really hard not to press, and I think that's probably one thing that could be our main problem is we're trying so hard just to get a win, and sometimes if you try too hard, you end up messing up, and you just got to relax and play your game and know who you are in both aspects, pitching and hitting.
Let's get your thoughts, Adam, on you guys as a staff. For the most part, the pitching's been very solid. A lot of different guys you can throw out there and feel like can get people out. Let's get your take on you guys as a pitching staff.
I feel like as a staff we're really deep. I feel like any person we throw out there can get the job done. We all have faith in it, and Coach Dickinson really worked hard with us in the offseason about our strike percentages and like eliminating the walks and the freebies and just going right after them and attacking with our plan and throwing our best pitches and working hard.
Now, this season we've already seen you draw starts and come in relief at different times too. How different mentally are those two, starting a ball game versus coming out of the pen?
It's a little different, but Coach D always told me just told all the pitchers just to be prepared no matter what your role is. Just always be prepared to pitch, and that's kind of the mindset I try to follow is just always be prepared, even though if you don't necessarily know if you're going to come out of the pen that day or if you're going to start the next day or whatever. You just got to be prepared to pitch and just be focused and be ready.
Does it keep you more, let's say, not that you would check out of a game, does it keep you more locked into a game than maybe the game after a start where you're on the shelf? Does it kind of make you stay engaged in a ball game a little more?
A little bit. But I mean, you're always sitting in there no matter what, even if you're not going to pitch because you started the day before. You're always in there cheering on your teammates. But I guess it's like mentally you're prepared to pitch if you're in the bullpen every single day. Whereas a starter, you're prepared to pitch that one game that week.
How about from an offensive standpoint, Colin? How different is it? Same thing to show up the ballpark and know you're in the starting lineup versus kind of staying tuned in case you pick up a late at bat.
Well, I've been on both sides of that this season, so I can tell you a little bit about it. Showing up knowing you're going to play it's probably you're more relaxed, more like you have more time to prepare yourself mentally to be ready, and when you're not in the starting lineup, like you're still in the game cheering on your team, but it's more difficult to come into a game and have an at bat that you have probably 2 minutes to get ready to hit a ball, and it's kind of, hitting a baseball is already hard in general,
yeah.
So it's even more difficult when you just get a little bit of time to warm up. But either way, you're always in it mentally.
Especially because chances are there's a good chance that if you're going to come in and pinch hit in the game, not only is it going to be late in the game, it's going to be in a big spot. So you got to literally step up there ready to take a key at bat in a ball game. Yeah,
there's always a lot of pressure in pinch hitting, and we're prepared for it. We've prepared all fall, early spring, so it's nothing we haven't prepared for.
We'll keep it here with you, Colin. Even though you're the in-state product of the two, you're actually from closer to Jonesboro than he is. So let folks listening know for each of you, start with you, Colin, sort of your path to Arkansas State. What led you to become a Red Wolf?
Well, Arkansas State contacted me my senior year of high school, probably middle to the end of my high school career, and they offered me a walk-on spot, and it was the best offer I got from. I mean, it was a nice school too, so. And I just wanted to play here. I came on a visit, and I liked what I saw and enjoyed it.
Now, for you, I mean, obviously, kind of a different set of options for you coming out of high school. Tell folks about that and what led you to ultimately decide to come to Arkansas State.
Well, after my junior year, Arkansas State was the first school that I got to come and visit. And right when I met Coach Raffo, Coach Dickinson, and all the coaching staff, I immediately I fell in love with the coaching staff, and I thought this was the best place for me. And so throughout my senior year, I just kind of thought, and once I decided, I knew this was the place for me. And it was close to home, and my family would be able to come and watch some of the games. And that's kind of like the deciding factors that I looked into when I.
Did you also deal with being drafted?
Yes, sir. My summer after my senior year, the Atlanta Braves drafted me in the 32nd round, and after a bunch of talk with my parents and much prayer and all that, and talk with Coach Raffo, I decided that it was the best interest for me to come here and play under Coach Raffo, play under Coach Dickinson, and let them develop me, and also get an education. And my parents were really pushing the education.
As we visit with Adam Grantham and Colin Massinelli live with the Red Wolves here at J Towns Grill. Another scheduled 5-game week for you guys, and we already talked about pitching against SEMO. What's that? Even though I guess maybe Kennett's right, almost in the middle between Cape and Jonesboro, but still, I'm sure an interesting road trip for you to play in Cape Girardeau.
It definitely is an interesting road trip. On the way there, we'll drive right through Kennett, and then an hour and 15 minutes later, we'll be in Cape. So. I mean, it's kind of nice driving through hometown and getting to see that for a little bit, and then going to a field, Capall Park, that I played at quite a bit throughout my high school career, and just definitely familiar, and kind of brings back memories about high school.
Is there the sign? It says "Welcome to Kennett, home of Adam Grantham" when you drive through there, doesn't it?
I don't know. I've never been there.
Home of Cheryl Crow.
Oh yeah, Cheryl Crow. I knew it was one of those too. And then coming home on Wednesday to play host to Tennessee, and I mean that's I know games like that are fun because it doesn't really matter where a team falls necessarily in that league. A win over somebody in that league is one that will catch a lot of eyes as folks are looking at scores on Wednesday.
Yeah, I mean, we played Tennessee my sophomore year, and I thoroughly believe that we were a better team than them then. We played them. Yeah, we played them one game. They won. They won. I don't remember what the score was, but yeah, it does look good when you beat a big team like that. But that's not really what we're concerned about. We're not really concerned how we look winning. We just want to win and continue winning for the rest of the season and make it the conference tournament.
And I know you've got to be excited about the prospects of doing something you haven't done all year, and that's get to play 3 conference home games this weekend. That's got to be fun.
Yeah, that was odd. I guess it was just it felt like the longest weekend ever, really. I mean, we traveled Thursday and then get back till Sunday around midnight, 1 a.m. So it was just it was the longest weekend so far.
And it's so nice for the weekend to roll around and not be any buses to get on as A-State is home in conference play this week. Guys, we appreciate the time. Good visiting with you. Look forward to seeing this team as it heads into the second half coming up, I guess technically next week, of the conference season.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Adam Grantham and Colin Massinelli, our guest, live with the Red Wolves. We're going to take a break. Come back again. Plenty of time for you to join us at J Towns Grill. As we continue along, we will bring Tommy Raffo back in and take a look at the week ahead for Arkansas State when we continue after these words on the ticket. Back live with the Red Wolves from J-Town's Grill on Johnson, just across from Centennial Bank Stadium, where Blake Anderson and his Red Wolves have returned to spring practice. No spring break for Tommy Raffo and his team. 5 games last week, 5 more coming up this week. I was a week ahead of myself last week. I tried to get you to talk about the trip to Cape Girardeau. Pretty sure you're going there tomorrow.
We are. It's it's a series. We've seen their team. They're top of league there in their Ohio Valley. It's a good team. They've done a good job there, and it's always great to show up there. It's kind of an easy trip back and forth for both of us to play each other locally. So look forward to playing them. They're coming back the next night, and actually have a game that we've made up, and we're actually on the trip to Atlanta to play Louisville. And I get a call from the University of Tennessee, Dave Serrano, who's the head coach there. He's been at Cal State Fullerton, and he's been at a lot of really neat places. And he said, hey, Tommy, listen, I got to make up some games. Or you guys got any open dates? I got April the 1st. I'm going to Ole Miss. And I said, well, let me look at the calendar. And so I knew we had a date open. I knew we need to play at home. And when an SEC team wants to play you at home, it's like, let's do it. So we're excited about that opportunity too, and bringing his program here.
Yeah, and it is. You are a couple of years removed from going to Knoxville, and Colin Massinelli being a senior who was here remembers that, and even 2 years later, whatever, says he's still his recollection. We thought we were better than them then, so I'm sure you hope that mindset sort of carries over into Wednesday.
Well, I think it tells you a little bit about our psyche with our guys. They feel, obviously they're very close. I know that they worked extremely hard. They want it very badly. You can see that at the same time, but it's neat to hear, obviously, for them to be able to say that. Obviously they're thinking that. And I know that they're excited about playing. I mean, that's the bottom line. I mean, we went through a period where we didn't get to play as much, and now in the last 5 days, you're more in a rhythm now. We talked about that last week. You're in a BP routine. You're getting up at a certain time. You're eating breakfast at a certain time. You're kind of getting that motion, and then you kind of build up to the weekend. You get the Thursday practice. Our Thursday night practice at Lafayette was phenomenal under the lights. And so, those are some of the things that I really like as far as getting in that schedule. And that's what we're doing right now.
Back to that SEMO game tomorrow night, 6:30 in Cape Girardeau. You can hear it here on the ticket. Pregame coverage at 6:15. But especially considering they're at the near at the top of their league, as you mentioned, not only does that make all the geographic sense in the world, but I mean it's a comparable game. It's going to be playing a team in the midweek that's like playing several Sun Belt Conference teams.
Well, actually we thought as a coaching staff they had one of the better offensive approaches we've seen. They got a veteran club in the lineup. They got some really new additions that done very well. And so they got an idea. They have a really good plan as far as how they're going to attack a pitcher. And so they got some things that they can do to you and that you got to really defend, whether you're on the mound or defending in the field. So it's a real challenge, and now we're away from home going to their park.
I know this doesn't mean anything to you because you're in the dugout, but from a radio standpoint, I tell you, Cape's an interesting place because the way it feels like you could actually call the balls and strikes. You could just send the home plate umpire home. You're just sitting right on top there. It's a pretty neat vantage point, which again you don't know anything about because you have the same vantage point as you always have from the dugout.
That's right. You get the idea. we were in Lafayette. I know, Brad, you've been to Cape Girardeau too, call and I think that one of the neat things is when you go up to the top and you get to talk to you or obviously Matt and Matt's up there a lot with us, and he kind of gives you an idea of kind of where the calls went. Hey, coach, this was way out tonight. It wasn't very consistent. Or hey, he was pretty good. They were in and out. He was calling it. And of course, that's the vantage point that you guys have, and so that gives a little bit of an idea or how you feel about the night for the umpire.
How hard is that specifically to see from the dugout? Because sideways doesn't seem like a real good vantage point to maybe get a feel for what a certain umpire's strike zone is that day.
You can't see in or out. You can see how Stewart catches the ball, and that he sets up obviously, and you got to wait for a late setup because so many teams now will dictate, hey, if they're going in or out. And most of the time, if a catcher sets up in, it's going to be a fastball. And so you got to be a late setup, and then you got to see how Stewart catches it. If he has to reach for it or if he sticks it, there are some things there that you can kind of look for. Height is more what we look at, and the height, and is the umpire calling the consistent height during the game. For instance, on Sunday, we felt like the height was a little bit higher than it was on Saturday. A little bit tighter on Saturday, actually, than it was on Sunday. And so sometimes the umpire you have to adjust to, whether you're a pitcher or a hitter, because that dictates. If you have a low ball umpire and you got a low ball pitcher, then it's going to be a heck of a day for you offensively. You got to really fight. But if you got a matchup that helps you, and the umpire's calling low, but the pitcher can't get down there, then you got some help for you offensively.
I mean, as a rule, do you want that high strike called for your guy? I mean, does it matter?
The bottom line, I think the bottom line, Brad, just like when you're seeing an officiated game in football or basketball or anywhere you want to see consistency. And once they establish that, you want them to hold that. And I think that's the biggest thing we all look for.
And then we mentioned Tennessee coming in here, a good non-conference home game on Wednesday, 5 o'clock. But the best part of the news is we talked with those guys earlier is that there's no bus pulling up Thursday, and hopefully, knock on wood, you get to play 3 conference home games for the first time all season, and it's halfway through the conference schedule.
Well, our routine this weekend, we played Friday, Saturday, Sunday for the first time in 7 weeks. So it was like, and really when you look at it, Kibler was rested for Sunday if we needed him, especially if a very close game. A lot of times when you play back-to-back games, once you shoot your bullet, it's hard to shoot another bullet the next day. And so that's how a 3-game versus a 2-game set can play out. And these gentlemen here, Colin, today, and he's graduating and he's moving on, and he's spent 4 years in the program. Very proud of what he's been able to accomplish for us, and academically he's been very sound. And then Adam, he's been like a superstar in the classroom. I don't think he's made anything below an A in all the 3 years he's been here, and I think a lot of people consider him probably the master tutor of the baseball team. So, Adam is very much aware of academically how much he puts in time and work in, and very proud of what he's been able to accomplish here.
South Alabama coming in here this weekend for 3, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And that, you mentioned the tough road trips to Georgia Southern, to Lafayette, and then outside of probably the Cajuns, it's probably the most tradition-rich program maybe in the league. They're used to winning games in Mobile.
Well, South Alabama had the opportunity as a college player playing against them, and then coaching against them in my coaching career, and then coming here too. They were in the league, and Steve Kittrell was the head coach there, and a very long-time head coach, and established a great record and a tradition there with regional play, and helped build a stadium there and fund it to a lot of the players that played for him. And so he recently retired, and a gentleman named Mark Calvey from South Carolina ended up being the head coach there, and he's a good friend, and he does a very good job with their program, and they have really some interesting things at South Alabama. They have some interesting matchups out of the bullpen. They have some interesting matchups at the plate in their lineup. A lot different than what we saw at Lafayette. So it's a different challenge, and that's what the neat thing about this league is you get different looks from different teams. And sometimes it's just like football, or just like what Coach Boyer might talk to you about matchups. You got a team that's long and lengthy, or you got a team that's very quick. Well, a lot of time in baseball, you talk about a team that's very left-handed, maybe in their lineup, or they got a lot of arms out of their pen. For instance, this weekend, Lafayette, we knew going into Lafayette they didn't have any left-handers out of the pen. They threw their Wednesday left-hander that they really like 94 pitches. And so they didn't really have anybody, and so that's why you saw us dominated with left-handed hitters that we felt like was a good matchup, possibly because their best 2 guys out of the bullpen were 2 righties. And if you look at Saturday when they threw Lee and Moore out of the pen, they had a really hard time trying to get through us. And so that's kind of the neat thing about it. South Alabama might have, I think they have 1 guy out of the pen that's left-handed, so it kind of neutralizes sometimes your strengths to what you think that you can beat teams with.
We're talking with A-State head baseball coach Tommy Raffo, live with the Red Wolves here at J-Town's Grill in Jonesboro. We asked this question last week. sort of the delicate juggling of the pitching staff through a 5-game week, and now I guess double that question up, trying to work your way through a pitching plan for a second straight 5-game week.
A great question, Brad. I think that you're very astute in kind of seeing the 10 games we're playing in 14 days, and we got to be very careful how we look at things. Glidewell's blister is a dilemma for us, but Coach Dickinson's done a good job of looking and trying to see how we're going to play this out. Now, the weekend is very important for us. We know that. We don't have a lot of equity right now built up in the league play. And so we need to work hard as far as making sure we're ready to go on the weekend. We have a plan laid out for SEMO. We have a plan laid out for Tennessee already. We don't want to jeopardize some of the guys that we want to pitch a lot during the weekend if they have that opportunity. But we also want to – it provides an opportunity for the young men on our staff to keep developing too, that maybe not have pitched some innings and have shown some really good promise and stints that we've seen. Now, we saw Adam Grantham get 2 starts lately, and he's worked very hard at that. And you see him actually get us 13, 14, 15 outs, and that's been very good to see from Adam.
Is it maybe Monday too early in the week to kind of know the plan as it pertains to Glidewell? Because skipped a turn with the blister and then was that, again, unable to kind of get the grip there. Is a little bit of a wait and see right now?
It might be. I think that we like to stick to it because really you can't really move David. He pitched Sunday and you can't bump him. He went close to 100 pitches. And then, Tyler was very good on Friday night. And I think the team feels very good about playing behind him and rolling him out there and competing behind him. And I think that's a big factor on Friday nights. And, the way the weather adjusted us or switched us up, David now is on Sunday. It wasn't meant to be that way. It's just the way it unfolded, the way the weather hit, and we had to back it up. And, and you look around the league, a lot of teams have kind of finagled their rotation. So, right now I think we're going to go that direction unless something else dictates it during the course of the week.
Talking with Tommy Raffo here at J-Town's Grill on Johnson as we head into our final few minutes of this edition with Live with the Red Wolves. Let's take a look at the Sun Belt Conference standings. Georgia State right now at 6-2. Obviously, 1 game short because it's the game with Arkansas State. Texas State at 8-4. Lafayette and ULR each at 7-4. Let's just be honest with you. Between the teams that lost games and the teams that have about the same record, it still is. Not a lot has been settled in the first 4 conference weekends here.
No, like I said earlier, some teams have some equity built up. And what I mean by that is they have some wins under the belt. We don't have as much. And, obviously now going into 6 more weekends per play, we need to make some moves. We need to make our move as far as how we're going to play the Sun Belt in the league and what we want to do to accomplish our goals.
How much, I mean, you look at the standings. You know the standings. Players aren't dumb. They're looking at the standings. You try to temper how much stock is put into it right now. I mean, you are going to technically reach the halfway pole this weekend. At what point do you start taking a harder look at sort of where the standings lie?
Well, we know this. Every game counts as 1 game. You can't win or lose a league in 1 game, but you need to play one game at a time as if, hey, wait a minute. This game is the most important game in the whole schedule. And then when that game's played, you move on to the next one. It's hard to do that because so often than not, when you have young men playing the game, and the way we played it with some double headers on the front end, it happened so quickly that you didn't have the opportunity maybe to play out over a space of 3 days. So before you know it, maybe you had a bad day or 2 bad days, and it might come back to hurt you. But that's the way it's played out. That's the way you're dealt. And, it's a great challenge for our guys. And that we're going to lay it out to them and say, listen, there's not a lot of people right now that are going to be outside of the league. I know our fans are behind us, but outside of the league, they're probably looking at us like, okay, well, they're probably a little bit on a spin that's not good. To heck with that.
Yeah.
We're going to play our best ball. We got 1 game at a time, and we can't wait to play you. So I wouldn't want to play somebody backed into a corner, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, your players, at least the 2 that are here today, I mean, and I would guess a great many of your players feel the same way. You look at these last 2 weekends, even without winning those 2 series, you could have won any of those 6 games. You won 2 of them. The other 4 were all right there for the taking. I think given what your team has dealt with to this point, and now that things kind of feel like they're getting into that routine that you long for, I think it feels like your team feels like it's ready to turn the corner.
There's no doubt. I think that after the 5 games we played, and as far as we know that losses, we don't accept losses. We don't want to accept that. It's not something that's in our DNA. At the same time, there's a outcome that happens, and you can't control everything. And so now we're at a part now where now the next game is the most important game for us, and our guys realize it. I think they're in a better place for sure. I think they like, especially some things that went on during the week. It could have been easily a week that you gone 5-0 versus 2-3. But at the same time, it didn't work out that way, and now we got to play another week, and we're looking forward to the next 5 games, how they wrap up for us.
A month into conference weekends, I mean, do you feel like anyone has set themselves as the team to beat in this thing?
Well, I think the thing that when teams go on the road and win games on the road, those teams are ahead of the curve. And so, like I said earlier, if you're able to go on the road and win 2 out of 3 or sweep on the road, they're ahead of the curve. And like the team that right now stands out for me is Georgia State. They go on the road here, and they had a good day against us and win 2, but then they go on the road to UTA and sweep. So they're ahead of the curve right now as far as what their schedule looks like. And so they got to be feeling good about where they're at. Again, bottom line is you still got to execute. Everybody's got 18 more games to play, and each game is just as important as the first game of the 18th game versus the last game of the 18th game. So,
side note, because of obviously what lies ahead this weekend, I guess some word saw on social media, I guess from your counterpart, Tony Robichaux, that this is the last game we'll see on an Easter Sunday coming up this weekend.
Tony is, we consider him the dean of the Sun Belt coaches. He's a real gentleman. He does it first class down there in Lafayette. And, some of the things they really do there for visiting teams is kind of, the way to do it. And at the same time, we had a coaches meeting in the Sun Belt down in New Orleans. And, that question's come up periodically through the course of the meetings. And there were probably some older coaches in the league at the time that did not like to see that. They didn't want to see anything changed. And now there's a little bit more of some youth in the league, so to speak. And, Easter Sunday is a special day for a lot of reasons and a lot of people. And, we want to acknowledge that. There's other leagues that have already made those moves years ahead of us, and so we're kind of behind the curve. And so in 2016, we will make that move to go Thursday, Friday, Saturday weekend for Easter Sunday weekend.
I don't want to confuse folks. This weekend it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but the good news is it's at Tomlinson Stadium, where after tomorrow you'll get to play 4 games this week. And it's funny, baseball's a funny game because so much of the narrative with your team to this point has been needing to play a game, and then all of a sudden the schedule says, okay, big boy, here you go, 10 games in 14 days.
Well, again, I can't think of another way. Our team is very excited about just playing, bottom line. These 5 games and 5 more, bottom line, let's play the game, roll them out there, let's play, compete, and can't dictate outcomes, but by gosh, we're going to give every effort.
Coach, appreciate the time and the visit. Look forward to seeing your club this weekend.
Sounds great, Brad. Thanks.